I laugh at those who think they can harm me. They do not know who I am. They do not know what I think. They cannot even touch the things that are really mine and with which I live. Epictetus. Our lives can be quite complex and chaotic. There can be issues to resolve with family, with friends. There can be complicated situations in our work, with our health, and all these things can threaten our peace of mind. And it turns out that when we are not calm, when we are very nervous, not only do we have a bad time, but we may do and say things that are not the most appropriate, and then that can cloud, damage our relationships. And not only are we going to have to deal with those damaged relationships affected, but we will also have to deal with the regret and guilt that usually arise when we have not been very good and we have done things that we regret. That is why it is so important to keep calm, but not always to keep that calm. Keeping a calm mind is very easy, but there is something we can do, and that is to pretend. Pretending that we are not affected by these things, pretending to be indifferent to the circumstances. In this video, I'm going to tell you why it is a superpower to pretend that indifference to the circumstances. Let's start by talking a little bit about the Stoics, and more particularly about Epictetus, who considered that the most important thing in life was freedom. Because it turns out that if we are controlled by people outside ourselves, by external circumstances, then we are not free. If there is someone who has the capacity to alter me, if there is some circumstance that can make me bad, then I am not free. I am a slave of those people or those circumstances. No one is free if he is not master of himself. Well, if it turns out that if there is someone who has the power to make me angry or to make me feel sad, that person is my master and I am his slave, because that person is controlling my emotional state. And the same is true for different circumstances, such as traffic, weather, stress, etc. If all those things have power over my emotional well-being, then those things are the ones that control me, and I am not then the master of myself, but I am a simple puppet, as Marcus Aurelius used to say. Dismiss your misperceptions, stop being shaken like a puppet. Therefore, for Epictetus, the most important thing was to gain freedom. Because when I can gain freedom and independence against external things, then I am really the one who governs me. You can be externally free and internally a slave, controlled by psychological masters in the form of desires, passions, circumstances, other people, and incapacitating longings. Conversely, you could be externally captive or even in literal slavery, but internally free of frustration and disharmony, so free in fact that you find yourself in charge of your own well-being, lacking little or nothing that you cannot provide for yourself. The latter, in essence, is the freedom that Epictetus made the central theme of his teaching. So we must do everything possible to free ourselves from those external circumstances that try to control us. And this is something that is possible. We can choose our attitude, and this is something that Viktor Frankl discovered. Viktor Frankl was a Swiss psychiatrist who was imprisoned in one of the concentration camps. He lived 3 years in those concentration camps, and during that period he lost everything. He lost his parents. He lost his wife that he loved with madness, and nevertheless, in spite of those circumstances that perhaps are the worst circumstances that a human being can live, what he could prove is that nobody can take away our freedom to choose our attitude in front of the circumstances. Everything can be taken away from a man except one thing, the last of human freedoms. We know, for example, that there are Buddhist monks who have worked and who remain calm under any circumstances. We know that in ancient times, the Stoic philosophers, the Aristotelians, the Platonists, and many others performed certain practices that allowed them to remain serene. So it is something that we can attain. Now we can then remain serene. We can choose our attitude, and we can then choose an attitude of indifference. Even if we do not feel indifferent inside, We can pretend that things do not affect us, and we can choose not to react. Pretending that something does not affect us. You become what you give your attention to. Epictetus. Well, yes, it turns out that Epictetus discovered that if we start acting in a way, if we start paying attention to something, we end up becoming that. So, if at the beginning you start pretending that something does not affect you, that it is indifferent to you, with time, with practice, it will become a reality. Inside you will also feel calm, serene. That is to say, at the beginning you pretend it, but later you feel it. So if you pretend that you are calm, that you remain indifferent to the circumstances, then you will feel calm. And this is something that Seneca agrees with, because practice makes perfect. Long is the way of teaching by means of theories, short and effective by means of practice. Well, if you start studying theories about how to be calm, it will be more difficult for you to reach that calmness. If you start practicing it, you will get there much faster. Now, it turns out that there are basically two ways how we can transform ourselves, how we can change. One is by our actions, and the other is by our thoughts. And if we combine both, then the probability of change is much greater and can be much more accelerated. Tell yourself that things have not affected you, that they cannot affect you. Choose not to be harmed, and you will not be harmed. You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. If you start telling yourself that no one offends you, that no one is capable of harming your serenity, that no one can reach your tranquility, then that will end up being a reality. So, what happens? What is the wonder of this strategy? That you pretend externally that nothing affects you and inside, accompanying with your thoughts, you also start to tell yourself things that are in harmony with that nothing affects you, that you are a calm person, that you are invulnerable, that you are indifferent to the circumstances, to what others may say. And that will then allow you to really acquire that serenity, and then the circumstances or people's behavior will not affect you. You will remain calm, serene. And what happens then when we manage to remain calm? Well, there are different aspects of our life that improve a lot. The first thing is that you will see how stress is reduced. It is not the things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. Remember then that if your interpretation of circumstances changes, so will your mood. We are the masters of our inner state. Our stress levels will go down. We will forget that we ever felt stress in our life because it will become something alien to us. And it turns out that when we don't have stress, many things flourish. Our health flourishes. Our joy flourishes. Many aspects of our life flourish. But now let's go to the next one, resilience. What does not kill you makes you stronger. It turns out that we are acquiring that strength, that indifference to the circumstances of others, and then we can face difficult circumstances, complex circumstances without being affected. And when we manage to keep calm, we are more likely to solve things. And it turns out that resilience is the ability to face difficulties and recover. If we maintain our serenity, our calm, we will be able to face difficult situations and overcome them. And the more we do that, the stronger we get. The same thing happens with the circumstances of life. You face a circumstance, you overcome it, and then you are able to face other circumstances, even more complicated ones. You become resilient. Let's go to the next one, relationships. The greatest discovery of any generation is that a human can change his life by changing his attitude. If we stop getting angry about so much nonsense, our relationships will improve. We have all noticed that it is difficult to relate to a person who gets angry about everything, who complains about everything, who thinks everything is bad. On the contrary, a person who keeps calm, who does not give so much importance to things and keeps his joy, is a person who becomes very attractive to other people. Then, when you are that person, you will start to attract other people who want to be by your side. And there is a wonderful thing. Opportunities in life always come from the hand of a person. You don't find opportunities lying on the street. Opportunities always come along with another person. And if you are an attractive person, a person that other people are looking for, then surely opportunities will come to you that will make your life prosper. Let's go to the next one. Confidence. Self-confidence is the first secret of success. Aristotle, we spoke earlier about resilience, which is the ability to overcome difficult things and continue with a good attitude. Well, when we are resilient, we gain confidence in ourselves. We know that we have the tools, the ability to overcome whatever life puts in front of us. When I have confidence in myself, I am much more likely to have the audacity to go out in search of my dreams, to set ambitious goals, to fight for the life of my dreams. It turns out that if I do not trust in myself, I am not going to move. I am not going to fight for great things, because what am I going to do if I do not have confidence in myself? I do not believe I am capable of achieving those big dreams, and then I do not even try. Therefore, the first step to make the life of our dreams come true is to increase our confidence. Moving on to the next one, happiness. Happiness is not a possession to be acquired, but an attitude to be cultivated. Well, if we keep calm under any circumstance, if we increase our confidence, and we start to move towards our dreams, then the most normal thing is that happiness and happiness will arise. Then we will understand that it is an attitude. Our happiness does not depend on circumstances. Our happiness is an inner matter, and if we have learned to regulate our inner self, we will see that we will naturally be in an optimal state, that well-being is part of our daily life.